The views and opinions expressed by Howard and Ridley through Reclaim the Room, including the podcast, blog, and social media, are solely our own and do not reflect the views or policies of any employer or organization. Content is provided for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, medical, or psychological advice. Copyright Reclaim the Room, all rights reserved.
Hello, and welcome to Reclaim the Room. I'm Howard.
And I'm Ridley.
And today we're going to do something just a little bit different than a normal podcast. I am going to have the honor of interviewing my co-host, Ridley. But before we get started, I want to say that we're also on YouTube at Reclaim the Room. So if you'd rather look at our pretty faces than just listen to our beautiful voices, then head on over to YouTube to listen.
I have to interrupt you real quick. If you're going to go to YouTube right now to watch this, Ridley is without makeup and is wearing a sweatshirt. I'm a little bit dressed down today, so I just have
But it's Sunday and she's amazing, so it doesn't matter. Okay, Ridley, you ready to get started?
I am.
All right. For those of us that are meeting you for the very first time, how would you describe yourself outside of the classroom?
That's actually a very difficult question to answer.
Because I took you outside of the classroom. You know who you are in the classroom, but what about outside of the classroom?
Outside of the classroom? Well, let's see. Let's start out simple. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm a grandmother. I'm a daughter. I'm a friend. I'm a mother-in-law. I am also a crafter, a Christian. I am silly. I am kind of funny most of the time. So I'm middle. I'm going to say I'm middle-aged still. I'm not going to say I'm older than middle-aged, but I think I'm right in that area.
Okay, so we just going to stop at middle age. Nobody gets older than that. Why? Just a number. Who really needs it? I mean, it's just a number.
Right.
I'm going to go out of order a little bit, really.
Okay.
And I want to, I'm going to stay right here for a minute. So that's who you are as a person. That's the essential core of who you are. But let's talk about who you are or who you see yourself as or who you wish to be or who you're growing to be as an educator.
You know, several years ago, I was working at getting my certification to be an administrator, and I really saw myself as being a principal. And really what changed that was I wanted to be more in the day-to-day with the kids. I didn't want to do all of the discipline and all of that work that goes along with that, right? I mean, we do that in the classroom. That's not saying we don't do that in the classroom. But I'm also I've become very focused on the rights of special education kids. And so that has really been my big focus for the last couple of years, actually. So I really don't know what I want to do when I grow up and be an educator.
I want to stay right there for just a second because I think it's very important what you said, that I think a lot of us, we come in and we see this certain path that we're going to take. We're going to do this, and eventually end up here. And what happens is normally we get into the work and realize that's not where I'm needed.
Right.
I need to be, over here. And I think that it's important for everyone to understand that that's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's not meant to be an administrator.
Yeah.
And some of us just don't have that personality. Some of us really need to be in with the kids. Some of us are at the point where we just need to make sure that the kids' needs are being met in the classroom. And what I mean by that is that we're providing all the accommodations and the little things that we are mandated by law to do. But, we need someone like Ridley, like you, because you go above that. I've seen you search for a specific accommodation that would work, but we need to find it and then put it in. So you get to know the student and you make sure that they really do have that personalized education plan, that individual education plan, that it's not just like we're throwing them in there with the wolves and saying, hey, all the wolves turn around and pay attention and this is what we're doing today.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
And I just want to make that point because I think everyone needs to know that. Sometimes your path changes, and that's okay.
Yeah, and sometimes it changes and it winds back and forth. I mean, I'm not saying that I would never be an administrator at this point, but right
Right.
now, the other part of that is what I am finding that is really been really heavy on my heart, not just the kids, but the parents that don't know what
Mhm.
their kids and their rights are, when
Right.
it comes to special education. There's a lot of things that just go through my mind, and as you know me fairly well. My
Mhm.
mind is like it jumps from one thing to another, but y'all, I let Howard into my computer one day to see my files.
I never wanna go back. I was scared I was never gonna find my way out. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my laptop screen, and then I have my big screen over here, and all tabs are open on both of them. And that's not even half. That's not even a quarter of what I saw in Ridley's mind, and I was like, but it's so organized. But I was like, "There is no way I'm jumping in those folders and never get back out again."
Yeah, yeah, folders within folders within folders, but I find something that I know I'm gonna need, I save it, I put it in the folder, I go back and I read it, and I know where I can pull it, and I'm
Mhm.
finding that that is where I am doing my best work so far, is making sure that the kids know what's available to them, know what their rights are when it comes to SPED and even 504. And then also making sure parents understand the process of writing an IEP and the IEP
Mhm.
meetings. And if you're not in Texas, you're calling them IEP meetings, but in Texas, we call them ARD meetings.
Cards.
Yeah. I don't think we do that anywhere else, but in Texas,
Anywhere
we
else,
do.
because ask me how long it's everybody kept telling me, "Hey, Howard, you got an art." I don't even know what that is. So if you tell me what it is, I'll show up, I promise, when I first moved here. Um, let's look back. Let's talk back to your early teaching years. What stands out most for you? The hope, the excitement, or the pure exhaustion of it all?
Yes.
Back when everything was all rainbows and bunnies and you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
So I came into teaching as a major career change. I went from being in probation and an investigator for the state
Mhm.
to teaching. And my very first year, I got hired as a behavior teacher at a middle school. We called it at the time, we called it PBS. And I
Mhm.
remember before I walked into the interview room, the principal at the time pulled me aside and said, I don't know if HR told you exactly what you're interviewing for. I just want to make sure you understand what it is. I said, yeah, you bet, sure. And she says, well, we're interviewing for the PBS teacher position. And I just want to make sure you're clear. I said, oh, yeah, I'm good with that. I know what PBS is. Go through the interview. Everything went fine. First thing I did when I got back into my car is I Googled what in the world is PBS when it comes to
Mhm.
found out. Yeah. But my whole premise of changing my career from criminal justice and dealing with adults mostly to teaching was I wanted to be where I could make the most impact and keep kids from going down that path. And I thought if I could just reach one a year, just one, then
Right.
it would be great because
Mhm.
when you are in the other line of work and you're constantly putting people in jail, it wears on you too. It really does because they have
Mhm.
families, they have children, and
Mm.
unfortunately, there's consequences. And so I had a lot of hope. I had a lot of excitement. I remember that first year, I was writing an IEP, getting ready for an art, and the janitor walked in a couple times and asked if she could clean the room, and I said, girl, come clean the room. It's fine. I'm just working. I'm just gonna work until 5, and then I'm gonna leave." And she started laughing. She says, "Have you looked outside?" Now, mind you, I started teaching on November 1st, and this
Exactly.
was probably mid-November, right? So it was dark outside. She says, 5 o'clock? It's 7:30. So she started calling me 5 o'clock after that. So I was exhausted, but there was a lot to learn. I was excited
Mhm.
because there was just so much to do and to learn and just to be a part of. And then I was wanting to reach students before they went down that road. And I'm sure I did. Unfortunately, you don't always hear about that. Sometimes we do, but, um
So I wanted to get the fluffy stuff out. Now we're gonna go deep, okay?
Ooh.
So when did you realize, or when did you first realize that something in you was changing? That the joy or the energy you once had was kind of slipping or waning a little bit?
So, for me, that's really hard to answer too. I have always had anxiety. So for me, the anxiety has always been there and it has always been kind of like something could go wrong, something could go
Mhm.
wrong, right? And when you have that anxiety, you always start the day. I mean, it's not a mild anxiety that I have. And I'm not saying that because I want,
Right. It's
anything.
true though.
Yeah, it's just something that I deal with, and so going into a classroom, especially in the beginning part of the year, it's very difficult because you don't know the kids, they don't know you,
Mhm.
and you gotta
Mhm.
be ready for all sorts of stuff. That's any teacher anywhere.
Right.
Um, but the little bitty things that started adding up was, most of the students were very respectful. I didn't have very many discipline problems, but I did have them. And they were usually because of personalities that
Mhm.
conflicted outside of my classroom. And then all of
Right.
a sudden they're in my classroom in this small room where you have 30 kids and trying to keep everybody at bay and keep them working so that they're not able to focus on the other stuff, so
Right.
there's some disrespect from students. There was
Mhm.
some yelling from students, the cussing, and
Mhm.
in and of itself, that doesn't bother me, but it's a constant thing. When it's a constant thing, and especially students that you really don't interact with, it's really hard to digest that and just keep rolling. 'Cause
Right.
there's a part of it that just kinda sticks to you. Breaking up fights. I was at a school whose discipline reports were really, really high, and the thing is, in the middle of it, you don't know. You don't
Right.
know exactly how bad it is, right? My very first day, before my first day of teaching ever, I was at a store and I think it was at a teacher type store and they asked, "You're starting your teaching career. How lovely." And I told them where I was teaching and they were like, "Oh, well, maybe next year you can get on a better campus." Like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
But why would you say that? And that just seems so inconsiderate to me.
Yeah, and so
Because they knew that this was your first year
yeah.
going into the classroom, but why put their fears and quirks onto
So,
you?
yeah, I'm starting my very first day and I'm already on high alert because it's my first day teaching. And now I have this going on in the back of my head over here. But you're in the middle of it and you're like, this place ain't bad. We got good teachers. We got good kids. Yeah, there's some things that happen. There's some fights. That's just normal until you look at the data. And then the data says something different. And it's not normal. And it's very high in the discipline or the disruption part. And so, you're dealing with that. You're dealing with students. You're dealing with parents. You're dealing with things that don't seem to change no matter
Eh,
what you do. You're on high alert. We talked about
all the
this, I
time.
think, a little bit already, but
Yes.
you pull into the parking lot and you're already on high alert and you're breathing harder and you're stiffing up and your
Mhm.
neck starts to hurt and your back starts
Mhm.
to hurt, and you're like, "Okay, I got this, I got this." And you take a deep breath, you count, you get out of the car, and you walk with a certain stance so that no one
Mhm.
can see how hurt you're feeling or how beat down you're feeling
Right.
because it's just like, you don't want anyone, one, to feel sorry for you, and two, give any reason to act other than normal. You don't want any extra anything happening. And so for me, it wasn't an all at once type slip. It just was little bitty things that kept stacking on top of each other
Okay.
over the years.
So you didn't have that one, like, "This is it." I can understand that because, we talked about briefly, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Mhm.
we talked about briefly how, you and I can be in the same place experiencing the exact same thing, but our reactions may not be the
Right.
same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to recognize that it just because we're all in the same workplace
Mhm.
doesn't mean that our bodies are reacting the
Right.
same way to the type of environment that
Right.
we are.
And with me, because my anxiety was already there, the
Mhm.
trauma that I started to experience added to that. And so my anxiety was in my head saying, hey, something could go wrong. My
Right.
trauma showed up and said, it already has, and it's going to happen
Exactly.
again. And that right there is just enough to like, I ended up, which I'm sure you're going to ask me about.
No, go right ahead. The natural flow is fine with me.
Okay. So I ended up having a breakdown. I am not someone that I would consider weak-minded, weak anything. Even today, I'll go head first into whatever I need to go into to make sure something happens. But I remember going to work for a couple of days in a row, and I was thinking, man, I just got some really bad heartburn, and nothing
Mhm.
seemed to help the heartburn. Tums, nothing. The overnight stuff, the 24-hour stuff. I could have eaten bottles of it, and it wasn't going away, and so I was starting to shake
Mhm.
and get the headaches, and my mouth got dry, and I was like, "Something is not right. It's just not right." And I heard the aides that was walking down the hallway was talking to another,
Mhm.
paraprofessional and talking about a student, and the only part I heard was, "Nobody believes her." That was just like this trigger, and I
Mhm.
don't know why. I have a couple of guesses as to why that triggered me. That night, and it was a Friday, I believe, I went home. No, actually, no, it wasn't a Friday. I believe it was a Wednesday. I went
Mhm.
home and I went to bed, and I didn't get up. And I didn't go back to work for 2 more weeks, and I talked to my principal, who was amazingly supportive. She understood, told me, "Take 2 weeks, come back, I need you," and I tried to do exactly that. I took my 2 weeks, I tried to come back, and then I had a full-blown anxiety attack, and then I knew this is not heartburn.
Right.
Whatever I wanna call it, this is not it. This was an anxiety attack that was so big, so raw, and
Mhm.
so it just took everything out of me for 4 months, and I had it towards the end of my conference period, which happened to be 2nd period. I barely made it through 1st period, and the kids were looking at me like, "Who is this woman, and why is she here?" And I barely made it downstairs to the counselor's office before I literally broke down and fell down onto the ground and said, "I can't do this. I don't know what's going on. I'm not me. I don't know what to do." And it took 3 of them to get me from one of the offices to a more enclosed office. It was actually an instructional coach's office. And they took me to one of the counselor's offices. And it took them about an hour or so to get me to calm down enough so that I could really coherently talk. And the concern was that, how are we gonna get what are we gonna do with her? Should
Mhm.
we call and have someone come check her out medically, And I was like, "No, no, no, I'm fine. Just let me just calm down." And I think by the time I went back upstairs I specifically went to go get my purse and say bye to you. That was an hour and a half or 2 hours into it. 'Cause I think
Right.
it was right be
Because I remember when you came to me and I was like, "Wait, what? All this is going on?" And "Wait, what?"
Mhm.
Because in my mind, I'm thinking something never happens to Ridley. She's coming to get me first, but you couldn't.
No.
And I didn't understand that at first, but 'cause and I was in shock. But, do you feel like your experience was minimized or misunderstood? And I wanna talk about people outside, but first, within that building.
Yes.
What about leadership or your colleagues? I was there, of course, you know me, I'm team really all the way. But do you feel like I mean, we've talked about this, but your experience was minimized. I know that, like I said, people don't understand our reactions to things, but do you think they really took the time to try to understand or just what do you think?
For the most part, I think most people that knew me couldn't
Mhm.
understand how and why. Like, I have never let on that, I have anxiety to begin with. No one knew it.
Right.
And I got a lot of, "I didn't even know you had anxiety. I have anxiety," type messages. But that is how my trauma presented itself first. And
Mhm.
then for like admin wise, I felt like I was supported by most of the admin. Yes, there were a couple of people that kind of were rude, to put it
Mhm.
just bluntly. I
Mhm.
had one person come up to me after I came back after Christmas break because I came in the 1st of December again. And then
Mhm.
after Christmas break, when I came back, the comment was, "Oh, look, you came back." And it floored me. I didn't quite know what to do with that statement. And so I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I did. Imagine that. Because
Mhm.
what else was I going to say at that point? Um, and then I felt like I had to keep any other anxiety that I had anytime it bubbled up,
Mhm.
anytime I had issues with a flashback or anything like that, I had to keep it quiet. And so it was more or less just make it to the end of the year for me.
During this period that you're going through all of this, what was the one thing that hurt more than you expected? And we can be talking about mentally, emotionally, or physically. How I just want to, because I saw it, but I don't know what you felt.
Right.
So I want to know, what was the toughest part about getting back to where you wanted to be, or at least starting the recovery to be able to work your way back?
I was very afraid that I would never go back to being me. I was afraid that that I was lost. I couldn't even see a time in the near future, far future, future of any sort where I would be back to normal. I had moved back to the area and was staying with family and waiting for my place to be ready. And once I got into my place, I didn't leave. I was quite comfortable staying in my place. The only
That's where I
thing
am
that
now.
made it uncomfortable is when I had to go to the store. And when I went to the store, I literally watched my shoes as I walked through the store. I didn't make eye contact with anybody, and self checkout was my friend. And I went in, got what I needed, and went out and left. And I
Mhm.
made myself do that every day. Go to the store once a day to get something. I never got everything I needed because that way I at least stayed
Had to leave, right.
in the
With
world
Mhm.
without
Right, right.
just hiding out.
During this time, were there moments when you question your worth or identity apart from teaching? Did you ever wonder if my favorite thing right now is, if I'm not a teacher, then what am I? Who am I gonna be? What am I gonna do?
Yeah,
Did you ever get to that point?
I did because it was already my second career choice. I mean, how many different careers can one person have,
As
right?
many as you want.
So I wondered, what am I gonna do? What if I can't ever leave my home?
Mhm.
What if I am made to find other things? What am I gonna do? Like, I
Right,
joked all the time with, I'm gonna go find another job. Would you like fries with that?
right,
But
right.
I wouldn't have even been able to do that.
Too many people.
Too many people, too much noise, too much everything. Everything was like on brightness was too high, the sound
Yeah.
was too high, the smell was everything was just too much. And so I went weeks. I never turned on my TV.
Mhm.
And then when I did, it was on until I
Mhm.
couldn't stand it anymore and I'd turn it off. And I just
Right,
sat there like it's so weird to think back now, but I was really scared I had lost me.
right. So how did this experience affect your relationships, family, colleagues, even your faith? And I ask that because I'm struggling with that a lot, and you're gonna help me through this.
So the family at first was like, "What is going on with mom? What is going on with my wife? Why are
Mhm.
you like this?" My husband was actually out of the country
Mhm.
and wasn't planning on coming back until Thanksgiving and
Mhm.
didn't understand exactly how bad things were for me mentally. And so in the middle of one of the anxiety, I don't wanna say attack, but attacks that I had, I
Mhm.
FaceTimed him and I said, "This is what I am right now. This is how I am," right? And so he changed his flight plans and came back much
Mhm.
quicker. I think and one of the biggest things that I have learned is I hid my anxiety and my depression for years.
Mhm.
Not as afraid to share the stuff with anxiety now.
Mhm.
And I think by hiding it, I hurt more people than I probably would
Mhm.
have otherwise. Because I think if I had a shared that I have anxiety with my personality type, because I have a pretty big personality.
Right,
I
and that's why it's so hard for people to take in the fact that you have anxiety
Yeah,
because you do have that big personality. You're a bubbly person most of the time.
most of the time. So I think I could have probably helped people through, if nothing else, acknowledging their own anxiety and knowing that it's okay, that there's nothing
Right.
wrong with them. There is, but there isn't. Like, it's okay. And then, like some of my colleagues, they just, like I said, they just didn't know how to take it. Funny story about my
Mhm.
anxiety. My mom came and stayed with me for a week, and I had been invited to a Halloween party. And so this is actually two parts of a funny story. I wanted to dress up as a mental institution patient.
Why didn't I see that coming? Why didn't I see that coming?
I wanted to have a white sweatshirt, a large one, and
Mhm.
pin my sleeves back, and I was just
You
gonna
wanted a straight jacket, really?
I thought it was hilarious.
You know I'd
Hilarious.
have done that with you, though. You know we'd have been just 2 right there together. You know I'd have been all in for that one.
Well, my mom, bless her heart, she says, "Daniela, you're a teacher. Are you really sure that's appropriate?" I said, "Mom, I'm making fun of me." "Daniela, you're making fun of mental health. I don't think that's appropriate. You're a teacher." I said, "Okay."
Made me feel bad because I was all in.
I was too. I still want to do it. But we listened to our mothers.
Yes, we do.
And so we went out looking for a costume for me. And I said, "You know what? I'll just be a 17th century whore." She goes, "Yes, that's a better idea. Cannot make this up." So we found a pirate outfit, a female pirate outfit. And I dressed like a winch, I guess. And I looked the full part. And
But that's hilarious because she said no to the straight jacket, but okay to the winch.
yes, so I went to,
Well, at least you're not making fun of people, I guess.
well, I kind of was, but I guess those
But
people, I don't know.
yeah,
So I went to the
but that's
party.
all a costume is making fun of people. So it's okay. Next Halloween, we're going in straight jackets.
Yes,
That's it's on really me
yes,
and you.
okay, good. We won't tell my mom, okay?
We won't tell her. And no pictures, no
No
pictures, no
pictures,
pictures,
yeah.
no
So, I
pictures.
go to this Halloween party, and, she's like, "Well, the Halloween party starts at 7:30, you should really get going." "Okay, Mom, it takes me 10 minutes to get there." "I know, but it's already after 7." I said, "Okay." I was the first one there because no one goes to the party exactly when it starts. But we're German. We're
You were
German.
not the cool kid.
No, we're German. We are always on
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
right?
right.
So I am there for 45 minutes to an hour before anybody else shows up. And bless their heart, I'm not going to mention the person who threw the party. I love him to death. He and his girlfriend at the time, I think they're engaged now, came out and they talked to me, and his whole family came over and they were talking to me, and I felt welcomed, awkward, but welcomed. And so I decided, okay, I I did that. That's a plus. It took me a month to recover, but I did it.
Right, right.
And so the other part I think that you asked me, because I've totally gotten lost and off
Mhm.
track, is about my faith.
Right.
My faith, it's there. It's
Mhm.
very quiet.
Yeah.
And it's only quiet because I am trying not to in any way draw extra attention to me because I still
Mhm.
cannot handle any extra controversy.
Right. Right, right.
I will defend anyone else, but when it's at
Mhm.
me, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so my biggest thing has been going to a church. I
Okay.
can't.
Me either.
And so,
Haven't been in over a year.
yeah, it has been longer than that for me. It is because of it's just too much coming and
Mhm.
going and I
That all eyes on you feeling is just not
right.
it's not what we're looking for right now. You know, you walk in and everybody turn,
Yes.
"Oh, you're back." You
You're
know?
back. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah. And
I'm
so
not.
my son goes to the church that we went to before, and I
Mhm.
actually had driven down there a couple times and gone to church there with him and his family. And then one time I drove down there and I had to stay in the parking lot. I couldn't even go in. And it's not that I don't want to go, and
Mhm.
it's not that I don't love the people there. It just causes so much anxiety and brings about so much, I don't know, feeling of just I can't even put it into words. It's
Right.
just so hard to do that
Okay.
I have stopped putting myself through that. But even
Right.
now, just talking about it, my feet
Uh-huh.
underneath my desk are going 100 miles an hour
Right.
because
Right.
it's just
And I
so
understand.
hard.
In these times, and I get it because I'm going through it myself, but you kind of withdrew.
Mhm.
And like you said, you would rather be in your own space,
Mhm.
watching TV if you wanted to, but not necessarily the silence of it all. So what did you learn about the silence? Yes, the silence, just you sitting in your own silence, one, and silence from other people. You know, people don't know what to say, so sometimes they stay away and they treat you like you have the plague. You know, you and I have talked about this. So tell me first about you living in your own silence, and then we'll talk about others.
So, me living in my own silence, I had to
Mhm.
learn to hear what my mind was telling me, so I could
Mhm.
learn to tell it to stop. And that is
Okay.
really hard because, again, it's the part of your brain, you're the scientist among us, but the
Mhm.
amygdala or something like that, it's back here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a chemist. I have to deal with all that.
Well, it's back here, okay? And it's the
Right.
one that, it says, it controls your fight or flight, and it says you're in danger, and so your frontal lobe will stop, and it will let this back here take over.
Okay.
And what I learned was I had to reengage my frontal lobe and tell this thing back here to shut up.
Okay.
And I had to prove to it that I was safe. And so the silence allowed me to do that because the noise was distracting.
Right.
Now, sometimes
Okay.
I needed the noise, but sometimes I just needed the quiet. And when I couldn't sit still, I would go walk in my
Mhm.
silence. And that
Mhm.
was the only way I could ground myself and bring myself back because I walked on a
Okay.
gravel path. And
Okay.
so I could hear my footsteps. And my footsteps are what brought me from being in my brain and all of the stuff it says was wrong to
Right.
the here and now. And so I utilized
Wow.
all of that to kind of help with that grounding and quieting this up here. Once this was quiet,
Mhm.
wasn't long and it wasn't often, I would turn on the TV and watch something.
Okay. See, and I'm learning a lot from this really because we talked a lot about it, but we haven't touched on every single
Yeah.
aspect of it. So, and it's good for me because I'm working with my brain and try to get like I'm tired of telling it to shut up because it won't. But like you said, I need that silence. And right now, I'm surrounding myself with noise,
Yes.
but I need some silence.
Yes.
And I never would have thought of walking on a gravel paveway, you know, a gravel
Mhm.
road or something to hear my footsteps.
Yes.
That makes so much sense to me,
Yes.
but it just never came about.
I would walk until the brain would stop enough for me to get a thought in, because it was
Mhm,
literally so loud and so
mhm,
constant that I couldn't do anything. I literally could not do anything. And the steps, just the constant slap of my feet, I changed how I walked so I could hear
hear
my
it.
feet. And once I was able to do that and I was able to concentrate on my feet, then I would tell myself I had to find 5 green things Now, mind you, I'm walking
Mhm.
outside, right? Everything is
Right.
green. But I limited myself. I could only say grass once. I could only say a tree once. I could only say a
Uh-huh.
bush once. And then I had to find at least 2 more things that were green. And
Mhm.
so I would find a trash can lid or
Mhm.
a rooftop or a car or a ball. I had to find something. And I would start with 5 and I would go up 7, 10,
Right.
whatever it was, because, the first things I'm gonna always say is, "Oh, green tree, green grass, green
Right.
bush."
Right.
Yeah. Um,
So you
so
challenged
I
yourself.
challenged myself because your brain cannot freak out and count green things at the same time.
So much sense. Makes so much sense.
And so I would do that until I was calm enough to go back home. And one day I walked 7 miles before I was that calm, but it helped. If I didn't do that, I would be curled up in a ball. Like,
Mhm.
I literally had to go do that every day.
So now let's talk about coming out of it. Let's talk about the rebuilding phase. When did the idea of reclaim the room start taking shape for you? I had to laugh at that
Well, Howard, why are you laughing?
because I know your mind. That's why I'm laughing.
So I'd always wanted to do a podcast. I always wanted to do one about anxiety, which is for the
Mhm.
most part what I have. I do have trauma, but most of mine is severe anxiety that was made worse by things that happened. Kind of, let me see, 35 days ago?
Was it that long? It seemed like it's just been like yesterday.
I believe it was September 29th. And
You're so good with dates. I don't know.
that's only because it's on one of our accounts. Uh, September 20th.
We can't remember the passwords, but
Listen.
and I literally mean we. I'm not talking about her. We can't remember
Yeah,
the
no.
password.
And reclaim the room. And in the introductory, podcast that we did that just
Mhm.
aired with all the technical issues that came along with it, it kinda got cut off, but the name for Reclaim the Room was actually the 600th and first name, 601, because I was trying to make sure we would not get confused with anybody
Anyone.
else. Yeah. Yeah. So,
I love it though. I love it because it's kind of my faith is telling me that it was meant to be.
mhm.
That because for both of us, it's taking on its own meaning.
Yes. Yeah. It's taken
So
on its own movement, even if it's
right,
just
right.
with us.
Right, right. But we do know that there are so many others like us that are looking to I just feel like it's so needed. I feel because even sitting here and I'm supposed to be interviewing you and talking to you, I'm like wanting to take notes. I gotta find me a gravel walkway. I have got to silence my mind so that I can move forward. It just makes me want to
Yeah.
take notes. And that's what I love about this so much is
Mhm.
that we can learn so much from each other,
Yeah.
even in casual
Yeah.
conversation, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be long drawn out, but I'm loving this. So, what does reclaiming look like now? Not just professionally, but personally. Now that we have all of this going on and just life is life, and what does it look like for you?
It's starting to feel more like I am reclaiming a dream I have. I have always wanted to, one, have a podcast. I'm weird.
Let me interrupt you right there, really, because I want to say I asked you before when did it start to taking shape, but I want our viewers to know. I was sitting at my little station one day, and I turned to Really and I said, "Hey, Really, let's do a podcast." I kid you not. Less than an hour later, she came back with copies of everything. We had schedules for doing things. She's like, "Let's go, let's go." You really tell the truth? Am I making this up?
No, you're not.
And all I did was turn to her and say, "Hey, really, let's do a podcast." And it just took off because I wanted to do one. I just didn't want to do it by myself.
Uh-huh. And I believe I said, "I'll be right back."
Exactly. Exactly. And I knew when she said that, I was like, uh-oh,
You
the wheels turning, those files are opening up on that computer, her tabs in her mind are just springing to life. I knew that.
Yeah, yeah. Anyone that knows me knows not to ask me my opinion unless you really want it, because I will give it to you. I have learned in my older age to be a little
Mhm.
kinder, but I will give you my opinion. And don't tell me you wanna do something with me unless you're gonna do it because I am
Ex
there.
All in. All in, and I love it. I absolutely love it because she makes me wanna get things done. Because 'cause I'm the resident procrastinator. I'll procrastinate to the last minute, but really it's always got a list for me. "Hey, Howard, look at this," or a booklet or something. "Hey, it's already ready, or you gotta." Okay, okay.
Yes, 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 yes.
But I'm really glad, and I wanted to interrupt you there because I wanted to say that, but I also wanted to say, now that we have this platform, this movement going on, how has that affected your mental?
It has helped me come a little bit further out of my shell again. It has helped me to realize that I'm not alone. My intellect is still intact because you do start to feel a little bit like, maybe you're not just as smart as you claim you are. But it kinda helped bring my ulterior drive back into play because I have always wanted to do something like this. The
Mhm.
blog, we're gonna have, some helpful products that we're gonna have on our website, and I can do this with you and not overdo
Mhm.
it because
Mhm.
I know there's someone else that's gonna be doing it as well, but
Right.
I can also do this and feel good about it and feel good if I take a break. Does that make sense?
I see joy
Yeah.
in you. I see, and I know you see it in me as well. I see the excitement,
Mhm.
but I also see the determination that you have to make sure that we dotted all of our I's and crossed all of our T's because we are, at the end of the day, professionals.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that everything that we
Yes.
do is decently done and in order.
Yes.
But I do see, I know when you're hurting, just like you know when I'm hurting. But I also do know that it's giving us some purpose.
Mhm. Yeah.
Not that we had no purpose, but I'm saying a different purpose, a different way to deal with what it helps me because I know that we're helping others.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? And I just want you to know how much you're helping me because, like I said, I'm over here just trying to take notes, trying to remember it. I'll call you back later and be like, okay, really, what you say?
I didn't even tell
But
you half of it.
and that's why I think it's so important for us to share our stories. That's why I wanted to do this upfront because we're gonna have some very, very good information that we're coming out with over the next however long we decide to do this. It's gonna be good, but we want you to understand our why. Why are we doing this?
Mhm.
It's not because it's something we saw on TV
No.
and decided, hey, it's not something we saw on the news or read about in a
I
magazine. Sure, we have, but that's not why we're doing this. We're living it.
Yeah.
We have lived it. We're still in there.
Yeah.
We're really still in there. And I'm just fighting my way back. But we want you to know that I want you to know really that I'm excited to work with you with this.
I am
I'm
too.
excited about what we got going on.
I am too, and I'm not usually, very, like, emotionally demonstrative. I tend to keep things a little bit low key and unless my ADHD gets the best of me. I know you see that look. I see that look. You're like,
I'm like,
whatever. Yeah, but
is that before or after you take off running down the hallway?
I'm not allowed to run anymore. But it's very empowering for me. It really is
Awesome.
because I know my dream has always been to help people. I mean,
Right.
we don't become teachers because it's a get rich quick plan.
It's not even a get rich slow play.
So yeah, it's it's very empowering, but it's also very like lifting. It's lifting my on the days that I hurt and I don't feel good and I want to amputate a leg.
Mhm.
It makes me really be happy that I am doing this because it gives me
Right.
something else to do.
To focus on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And by the way, when I
Okay.
say
Go
amputate a
ahead.
leg, I have some major problems with my knee, and just so y'all know, I'm not
There will
advocating
be no
violence.
amputation. We're not speaking that. There will be no
No, there'll
amputation.
be surgery.
There will be surgery, but there will be no amputation. So, Ridley, if you could speak to the version of yourself who was breaking down in that classroom, what would you tell her?
Mm,
As she's going through it, she's in the thick of it. What would you tell her?
you're gonna be okay. You have to go through this. It's gonna hurt, and you're gonna feel like you're lost. But I'm here to tell you, you're gonna be okay. Things will come back. and you will be in a better place than when you started.
Powerful. Powerful. So, as we begin to wrap up, what truth do you want other teachers, especially those hanging on by a thread, to hear today?
You are not alone. You
No.
have not done anything wrong in feeling how you feel. And all you have to do is reach out. Reach out to us if no one else. Sometimes anonymity has its pluses,
Right.
but you are not alone. And I'm telling you, if I can come back from what I thought was the worst day of my life, the most humiliating time of my life, the most lonely, aggravating, and painful part of my life, I know that there is hope for you. I'm not saying it'll be easy, but I
And it's
know.
not gonna happen overnight.
No, no, no. There's no overnight fixes. There's none. And there's no
Right.
fixes without some kind of support.
I wanna say, really mentioned reaching out to us. We do have a Facebook group that we are both active in, and we do not mind. You can inbox us, you can post something on the page if you don't mind everybody seeing it, but definitely reach out if
Mhm.
you need help or if you just want to talk.
Yep.
We're talkers, as you can see. We don't mind
Yep.
at all.
Reclaim the
We are
Room
here.
Facebook group. It's
Yes.
called Reclaim the Room.
We're everywhere. Reclaim the room. Reclaim the room. Except Instagram. Reclaim.the.room. Okay. What's one boundary or habit you protect now that you wish you learned sooner? Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, that is a good one. I think protecting me, protecting myself, but at the same time, um, questioning my thoughts.
Mhm.
And so a bad thing about anxiety is that you believe what your brain tells you,
Right.
and your brain is a liar. Your brain does not know everything. It cannot tell the future.
Mhm.
It cannot tell what other people are thinking. And so one of the things that I've started doing is when I feel like someone is mad at me, I ask them.
Mhm.
Sometimes I can do it right away. Sometimes it does take me a couple of days, but I used to never do that. I used to just assumed everybody hated me and didn't like me, and that was my anxiety. And I just wonder what I missed out on.
Wow, that's good. So, at the end of this, how does it feel to have shared this out loud? How does this feel?
It feels good. Obviously, this is just a snapshot in this. It's just a
Right.
snapshot.
It's just a snapshot.
Yeah, it feels good. I did voice some concerns because my story's not like yours. I don't have a
But we
major.
have to also realize that not only our stories as educators, that's not all of who we are.
Right.
So all of our experiences are going to have an effect on us at some point.
Yes. Exactly.
And like you were saying earlier, the little things,
Mhm.
you can grab little things from your childhood,
Mhm.
little things from your adolescence, little things from being a teenager. Those little things keep piling up. And then that one little thing that happened in the classroom, poof.
Yeah. And you never know.
So I want to give you the opportunity. Is there anything else that you want our listeners to know about?
I just think most of all, if you are in the position where you have some anxiety or trauma, that you don't downplay it, that you
Right.
talk to someone that you can trust, that you don't try to go at it alone because that's hard. It's hard to do this alone. The other thing is if you know someone that is acting kind of
Mhm.
off, and instead of assuming that maybe they're just being unsociable or they're an angry person or whatever it is you're assuming, ask them, hey, is anything going on? Is there
Right.
anything that you need help with? You
Right.
seem a little bit off today. Is there anything I can help you with? And sometimes it's not the first time you ask them that they're going to open up to you because I wouldn't
Right.
have, but maybe the
Mhm.
fifth time or the 10th time. And it's
Mhm.
not forgetting to remember that even though we're educators and we're in charge of 108 students, if you work in the secondary school, we're
Right.
still people that have our own things going on. And we need kindness.
Kindness. I was going to say that. Please just be kind.
Kind.
Just be kind.
Yes.
Just be kind and understand that everyone has a life outside of that building.
Yeah.
So it may not be something that's going on in the building.
Mhm.
It just may be they're going through a tough time
Yeah.
with something else, but just be kind. And even if they don't share, just still be kind.
Yeah.
It's okay to say good morning. You know,
Yeah.
it's okay to say hello. It's okay to offer them coffee. It's okay to just be
Just
kind.
be kind.
Because I find, that because I wear everything on my face, you can tell when something's wrong with me that most people just like,
Uh-huh. Yes.
I'm not fooling with Howard today.
Yeah.
And sometimes all I want to say is, I'm just not okay today.
Yeah.
Can I talk to you for a minute? Or,
Yeah.
just be
Yeah.
kind
Yeah. And it's that too because my face is very expressive. I think I'm holding it in and then the whole time my face is doing, you know.
and telling you every bit of it.
But that, and I sometimes I have to keep that closed, but
Mm-hmm.
had someone and very few people checked on me while I was out, and mostly it was because they didn't know what to say. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know that I had the anxiety to begin with, but and then, of course, they have their own stuff as well.
Right.
But it's if you're in that position, don't think that just because no one is checking on you that no one cares. That's not
Right.
true.
Right.
That's
Right.
not true. People do
Right.
care, but everybody's got something, and so it's
And
time.
everybody doesn't know. They don't, just because we're in the thick of it, that people don't always see that.
Right,
Everybody's so busy. Sometimes I might not see, hey, really might need me right now because I'm, tuned into something
right.
else. So you have to just be aware that everyone is going through something.
Mhm.
Might be a good thing, who knows? But everybody has something pressing on them
Yeah,
at some point.
yeah,
Even if it's just, oh my God, I gotta cook dinner. I gotta come up with something to cook. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It can be something that
yeah,
simple. Because if you
exactly.
walk by me, and I'll have to stop and tell people all the time, I'll walk right by them and never say anything. I'm in my own world. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. My brain's going 100 miles an hour, and I've got 14 things I'm trying to solve in my brain,
Hmm.
and I honestly
Yeah.
may not even see you, but I'll circle back
Not
around.
exactly. Right, right. Be patient, be
Yeah,
kind with everyone. Not just because somebody's going through, but just with everyone in general.
yeah,
Because you really don't know. Some can mask it very well, Ridley.
yeah,
But
yeah, I do. I mask it very well. I mask it so well that family didn't know, and I'm been doing it many, 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 many years, and so I'm really good at it, really good at it. I'm not sure if that's something to brag
Mhm.
about. Put that on my resume.
Well, really, I have very thoroughly enjoyed this. I knew it was gonna be fun.
Yes. Yes.
Please, please, please follow us on all our social media. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. We are growing.
Yes.
And we would love to take you along on this journey with us.
And tell us who you are. Tell us what brought you to
Where you're
us.
at.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
give us something.
We're nosy. No, but that's important though, because everybody's coming from a different
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? We've seen some people that have seen our stuff from other countries. So we're not just talking to people living in Texas. We want to know all about
yeah,
everyone everywhere.
yeah, yeah, we do. Yeah.
This has been fun. We want to thank you for helping us to reclaim the room, and we will
See you
see you
next
next
time.
time. Bye bye.
Bye. Reclaim the Room credits, otherwise known as teacher duties as assigned. Bus duty, Howard. Hallway duty, Ridley. Cafeteria duty, Howard. Recess duty, Ridley. Field trip coordinator, Howard. After school tutoring, Ridley. Required attendance for Howard and Ridley, staff meetings, PLC, and every single one of those committees.